reality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, 48 after. So let me tell you what happened. Okay, so when FDR was president in 1939, if you made over $200,000 a year, okay, which was extraordinary, then every dollar over 200,000 was taxed at 66%. 66%. Then when the war started, 44, 45, every dollar over 200,000 was taxed at 94%. 94%. Okay, so that's like making millions of dollars. Okay. Anyway, it stayed that way for 20 years. It stayed that way. High taxation on, enormous wealth stayed that way. And guess what happened after the war? Guess what happened? Even though the war was over, they still taxed an enormous wealth at an enormous tax rate. That is when the largest, most durable middle class in the world was born. That's how important taxation is. And the real corporate elite, the real rich people in this country, the great inheritors of wealth, the great, Nepo babies, they all know this because they went to Ivy League schools or their families have drilled it into their head. And they all know this, and they don't want to pay their damn taxes. They don't. And they don't care about a middle class. They don't. They don't care about a consumer-driven economy. They don't. They don't care about building wealth from the middle out. They don't. They don't care about growing wealth from the bottom up. They don't. But Democrats do, and this president knows how and actually lived through these experiences. And he took a different lesson than the corporate elite took from it. And he understands taxation is everything. He understands incentivizing great fortunes over the middle class produces great fortunes over the middle class. Incentivizing the middle class with taxation policies that incentivize the middle class grows the middle class. When he's talking to you about growing from the bottom up, middle out, this is what he's talking to you about. And what did I say? I would vote for anybody, I don't care what party, who was most like FDR. I would vote for anybody who was most like him. Now you know why. I wasn't alive in the 40s, okay? But I know what happened, and I know what it produced. And I know my family sacrificed, and my family benefited. And we were middle class. I know that because it was drilled into my head. So when you look at that and when you see that the tax structure and the incentivizing of things via the tax code is, a very important part of choosing a party and choosing a president and choosing a representative and choosing state representatives, et cetera, et cetera. It's all key to you and your success in, a middle-class America. It is. It's essential that you understand what's going on. And what's going on here is corporations. It's not just corporate. Okay, so I was gonna translate for you what Mussolini's, parliament was called. It was actually the parliament when Mussolini became, the dictator. Parliament was dissolved. And in parliamentary systems, you can dissolve the government, have snap elections. Okay, so he did that. And then it was replaced with something called Camera dei Fasci e delle Corporazioni. I speak terrible Italian. My Spanish is even worse. But it translates into Chamber of the Fascist Corporations. That's what it, talk about, putting it right in front of your face. That is what fascism is. It's a in the movie Network, when he talks about, the world is a corporation, Mr. Beale, he's talking about fascism. That's what Ned Beatty's character, okay, is telling Mr. Beale after Mr. Beale gets on TV and yells bullcrap, and the whole country says, wow, he said bullcrap, which is why Trump does it. You have wars going on in Ukraine that, are wars of aggression by a country we would consider our staunch enemy. Do you know that 90 miles away from where I am right now, there are Russian nuclear submarines hanging out in Cuba? Do you know that? 90 miles. It's like a total repeat of the Cuban Missile Crisis. They're just trying to flex right in front of us, right? But the world is a corporation, Mr. Beale, right? And it doesn't matter that that's happening. And it doesn't matter that Russia is invading Ukraine. And it doesn't matter that Gaza is being controlled by Hamas. And Hamas doesn't want the peace deal. And they're very happy to sacrifice even more Palestinians to save, their cause, which is bizarre. Okay, but that's what they're saying. Okay, they're after this guy who lives in the tunnel. His name is Sinwar, and Sinwar is like, no, I don't want to accept the deal, the ceasefire deal, because I don't think that I have a future. Why would I support a deal that makes me a dead man walking? I won't. Why would I support a deal that actually says Hamas no longer can exist? Why would I do that? I'm not doing that, and I'm not going to do. Well, they're going, well, your people are going to be slaughtered. Your people are going to die because Israel is obviously committing war crimes, and so are you. Okay, and there are no rules to this thing anymore. It's spun out of control. He goes, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. But if Donald Trump gets up on a stage and yells bullcrap, everyone will talk about it. That is the story of manipulating media. And so when I said to you that a man called me yesterday and told me about Henry Wallace, and I told the man in Washington State that I would look him up, I did. And you know what Henry Wallace said in 1944 when he was asked, how many fascists do you think there are in the United States and where are they? His reply was, the really dangerous American fascists are not those that are hooked up directly or indirectly with the Axis, because the FBI has their finger on those. The dangerous American fascist is the man who wants to do in the United States, in an American way, what Hitler did in Germany in a Prussian way. The American fascist would prefer not to use violence. His method is to poison the channels of public information. Jesus Christ, this man was so ahead of his time. Oh my God. He continued, and he said, with a fascist, the problem is never how best to prevent the truth to the public, but how best to use the news to deceive the public into giving the fascist and his group more money and more power. I mean, this was a fascinating, ask from this caller that I should stop what I was doing and research this dude who obviously I was not aware of. Too bad for me, because this guy was so completely prescient. He was like a prophet when it comes to really bad government. He understood. He said fascism should more appropriately be called, you ready for this? Corporatism. Because it's the merger of state and corporate power. Mussolini affixed his name to the entity and claimed credit for it, but the party was called the Chamber of the Fascist Corporations. When you look up fascism in the dictionary, do you know what it says? This is very interesting. It says a system of government that exercises a dictatorship of the extreme right, typically through the merging of state and business leadership together with belligerent nationalism. Bam! We are here. So for those of you who are like, it's coming, no, it's here. We're here. And it's up to us to say no and beat back fascism. That's already here. It's why I believe you're getting pushed out of California. It's why I know that corporate landlords are raising rent. I bet you anything, I should have asked her, if her landlord was a person that, like had a 2-family house and was renting, part of her, or if her landlord was a corporation, was she writing checks to a corporation? Because, I did, look up during the break this little detail too, because I wanted to be able to speak to it a little more intelligently than I have been. And it looks like California was asking landlords not to raise rent more than 3% this year. And guess what? Corporate landlords who owned many units of housing said that if that law passed, they would be forced to sell. Ooh. Well, good. See what I mean? That would be good. But it's all about taking information and weaponizing it to make you afraid of it and then telling you who to blame for it. It's not about solving problems. Corporate governance and uber nationalism merged together is where we are. So you could call it what you want. I'll call it fascism. Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to randyrhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.